The night air crackled with tension as Emma Chen, CEO of Horizon Technologies, found herself surrounded by 5 men with predatory smiles and switchblades glinting under the streetlights. She'd stayed late at the office again, her Tesla in the shop, and now her shortcut through Westlake Park had become a potentially fatal mistake. As the gang closed in, a figure emerged from the shadows, not a police officer or security guard, but Michael Reeves, the reserved single father who fixed computers in her building's basement tech support office. What happened next would change both their lives forever, in ways neither of them could have imagined. If you're wondering how a quiet IT technician faced down a street gang and why this moment forged an unbreakable bond between 2 unlikely souls, stay with me. This story might just restore your faith in humanity. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to see more incredible true stories of ordinary heroes among us. Emma clutched her leather portfolio to her chest, mentally calculating her odds. At 42, she'd built a tech empire from nothing, survived corporate takeover attempts and boardroom betrayals, but none of that mattered now. The tallest gang member, a lanky man with a spider tattoo crawling up his neck, stepped forward. "Nice watch," he said, eyeing the Patek Philippe on her wrist, a gift to herself when Horizon went public. "Hand it over, along with that fancy purse and phone." Emma's mind raced. Her phone contained unreleased product specs. Her portfolio held contracts worth millions. But neither was worth her life. She slowly reached for her watch clasp when a calm voice cut through the night. "Gentlemen, I believe there's been a misunderstanding." Michael Reeves stood 10 feet away, his hands empty at his sides. At first glance, he seemed entirely unthreatening, average height, slim build, wearing faded jeans and a worn flannel shirt. His brown hair was slightly disheveled, as though he'd been running his hands through it while solving a particularly difficult coding problem. Nothing about him suggested he should be inserting himself into this dangerous situation. The gang members exchanged amused glances. Spider Tattoo laughed. "Walk away, man. This isn't your business." "I'm afraid it is," Michael said, his voice still eerily calm. "You see, Ms. Chen is my boss, and I need this job. If something happens to her, I'm out of work. Single dad, you understand. Can't afford that." Emma stared at Michael in disbelief. She barely knew him, just the quiet man from IT who fixed her laptop last month when it crashed before a major presentation. He'd done the work quickly, efficiently, and without the condescending tech speak she often encountered. But they weren't friends. They weren't even acquaintances. Why was he risking his life? "Last chance," Spider Tattoo warned, flicking his blade open and closed. "Walk away." Michael sighed as though dealing with a minor inconvenience rather than a life-threatening situation. "I was hoping we could resolve this peacefully." He took a step forward, and something in his movement made 2 of the gang members exchange uneasy glances. What happened next occurred so quickly Emma would later struggle to describe it. Michael moved with a fluid grace that seemed impossible for his unassuming frame. Within seconds, 3 of the men were on the ground, groaning. Spider Tattoo lunged with his knife, but Michael redirected the attack with a simple twist, sending the man sprawling. The last gang member turned to run, but Michael's hand shot out, gripping his collar. "I think we should wait for the police," Michael said, his voice still unnervingly calm. He glanced at Emma. "Ms. Chen, would you mind calling 911? Emma's fingers trembled as she dialed. Within minutes, police sirens wailed in the distance. The gang members, subdued and shocked, remained where they were, eyeing Michael with a new wariness. When the police arrived and took statements, one officer pulled Michael aside. Emma couldn't hear their conversation, but she saw the officer's respectful nod before he rejoined his colleagues. As the police car carrying the gang members pulled away, Emma finally found her voice. "How did you do that? Who are you?" Michael's expression shifted, a flash of something, pain? Regret? crossing his features before his face settled back into its usual reserved mask. Just a guy who knows a few things. Former military. Nothing special. You saved my life, Emma said. That's not nothing. Michael shrugged, uncomfortable with her gratitude. Anyone would have helped. No, Emma said firmly. They wouldn't have. Most people would have walked by or called the police from a safe distance. You put yourself in danger for a stranger. Not a complete stranger. You approved my flexible schedule when I started so I could take my daughter to therapy appointments. Not many CEOs would do that. Emma barely remembered the accommodation, just one of dozens of HR matters she signed off on weekly. Your daughter, she's ill? A shadow crossed Michael's face. Leukemia. She's in remission now, but the follow-ups are important. I'd like to meet her sometime, Emma said impulsively, then immediately regretted it. This man had saved her life, but that didn't mean he wanted his boss intruding into his personal world. To her surprise, Michael smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him. Lily would like that. She's 12 and wants to start a tech company someday. Talks about you all the time, actually. Before Emma could respond, a police officer approached for additional questions. By the time she finished, Michael had disappeared into the night, leaving Emma with more questions than answers about her mysterious rescuer. The next morning, Emma arrived at Horizon's gleaming headquarters earlier than usual. She'd barely slept, the events of the previous night replaying in her mind. Her assistant, Priya, greeted her with wide eyes. Oh my God, Emma, I just heard what happened. Are you okay? News traveled fast in the corporate world. Emma nodded, setting down her coffee. I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. Is Michael Reeves in yet? From IT? Priya looked confused. The quiet guy? I think he comes in around 9 after dropping his daughter at school. When he arrives, please ask him to come to my office. At precisely 9:15, there was a soft knock on her door. Michael entered, looking even more unassuming in the daylight, just another IT worker in business casual attire, nothing to suggest he could take down 5 armed men without breaking a sweat. You wanted to see me, Ms. Chen? Emma, please. After last night, I think we can drop the formalities. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. I wanted to thank you properly. Michael sat, his posture perfect, another clue to his military background. That's not necessary. It is to me. Emma leaned forward. Michael, what you did was extraordinary. You mentioned military service, but that was more than basic training. Michael was silent for a long moment. Special Forces. 12 years. I don't talk about it much. And now you work in IT? A small smile touched his lips. Turns out the skills are surprisingly transferable. Solving problems under pressure, thinking systematically. And the hours are better for a single parent. Emma nodded, understanding. Your wife? Died when Lily was 7. Cancer. He said it matter-of-factly, but Emma saw the grief still lingering in his eyes. I'm sorry. She hesitated, then continued. I'd like to offer you a position in our security department. The pay is substantially better, Anne. Michael was already shaking his head. I appreciate the offer, but I'm where I need to be. IT lets me work flexible hours, solve interesting problems, and be there for Lily. That's what matters to me now. Emma studied him, intrigued by this man who seemed so content with his place in the world. In her experience, everyone wanted more money, more power, more recognition. Michael Reeves appeared to want none of those things. At least let me do something to thank you, she insisted. Michael considered this. Actually, there is one thing. Lily's school is having a career day next month. She'd be over the moon if you'd come speak to her class about being a woman in tech. It was such a simple request that Emma almost laughed. She'd been prepared to offer him a substantial bonus, a promotion, even a new car. Instead, he asked for something that would make his daughter happy. "I'd be honored," she said. 3 weeks later, Emma found herself standing before a classroom of wide-eyed sixth graders, explaining how she'd built Horizon Technologies from a startup in her garage to a Fortune 500 company. In the front row sat Lily Reeves, a thin girl with her father's thoughtful eyes and a bright yellow bandana covering her still-growing hair. The child asked the most insightful questions of the entire group, and Emma found herself impressed by her intelligence and poise. After the presentation, Lily approached her shyly. "Thank you for coming, Miss Chen. Dad says you're the smartest person he knows." Emma glanced at Michael, who stood by the classroom door, watching them with a small smile. "Your dad is pretty smart himself. He says I can be like you someday if I work hard," Lily continued. "I already know Python and I'm learning Java. Programming at 12? That's impressive." Lily beamed. "Dad teaches me. He says understanding computers is like having a superpower in today's world." As Emma drove home that evening, she found herself thinking about Michael and Lily Reeves, this small, resilient family unit facing challenges with quiet dignity. She'd encountered thousands of people in her rise to the top, but few had intrigued her as much as the unassuming IT technician who'd saved her life and wanted nothing in return. Over the following months, Emma found herself creating reasons to visit the IT department. A glitchy email system. A software update question. Each time, she'd linger, chatting with Michael about Lily's progress, about books they'd both read, about the changing tech landscape. She learned he had a dry sense of humor that emerged once he became comfortable. She discovered he made intricate wooden puzzles in his spare time, a hobby that helped him quiet his mind. For his part, Michael gradually relaxed around her, his initial reserve melting into a cautious friendship. He never mentioned the night he'd saved her, never leveraged it for advantage. It was as though he'd simply done what needed doing and moved on. 6 months after the attack, Emma received a call from Michael that changed everything. His voice, usually so controlled, trembled slightly. "Lily's cancer is back. More aggressive this time. The doctors are recommending an experimental treatment, but insurance won't cover it." Emma didn't hesitate. "Whatever you need, Michael. Money, specialists, anything. I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm offering." Emma's tone brooked no argument. "Send me the details. I'll make some calls." The experimental treatment was available only at a specialized clinic in Boston. Emma not only covered the costs but also arranged for Michael and Lily to stay in a comfortable apartment near the hospital. She used Horizon's corporate jet to fly them across the country and set up a remote work arrangement so Michael could continue his IT duties from Boston. When Lily began losing her hair again from the treatments, Emma showed up at the hospital with her head freshly shaved. "Solidarity," she explained to the astonished father and daughter. For the next board meeting, she wore her baldness proudly, igniting a social media storm about the powerful CEO who'd shaved her head for an employee's child. The treatment was brutal. Lily's small body fought valiantly against both the cancer and the aggressive therapy designed to save her. There were nights when Michael thought he might lose her, when the machines beeped ominously and doctors rushed in with grim expressions. During those darkest hours, Emma was there, sometimes just sitting silently beside him in the hospital corridor, sometimes bringing coffee and forcing him to eat something. One particularly difficult night, as they sat in the hospital cafeteria at 3 a.m., Michael finally asked the question that had been on his mind for months. "Why are you doing all this? I know I helped you that night, but this goes far beyond any debt you might have felt." Emma considered her answer carefully. "When I was building Horizon, I was so focused on success that I forgot to build a life. No husband, no children, few real friends. Just achievements and acquisitions." She stirred her coffee absently. That night in the park showed me how empty all of it was. In that moment, my company, my wealth, my reputation, none of it mattered. And then you appeared, risking everything for a stranger because it was the right thing to do. She met his eyes. You and Lily reminded me what matters. Not what we achieve, but who we become. Who we help along the way. Michael reached across the table and took her hand, the first time he'd initiated physical contact between them. You've become family to us, Emma. You know that, right? 3 months later, Lily's doctors delivered the news they'd been hoping for: the cancer was in remission again. The experimental treatment had worked. When they returned to Seattle, Emma insisted on hosting a celebration at her lakeside home, a gathering that included not only Michael and Lily but also several of Lily's friends from school and Michael's colleagues from the IT department. As the party wound down, Emma found Michael standing alone on the dock, looking out over the water. The setting sun painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, reflecting off the lake's surface. "Penny for your thoughts," she said, joining him. "Just thinking about how much has changed in a year." He turned to face her. "When I intervened that night, I never imagined where it would lead. Do you regret it?" Emma asked, suddenly uncertain. Michael's laugh was genuine. "Regret saving the woman who saved my daughter? Who became the most important person in our lives? No, Emma. I don't regret a single moment." The silence between them was comfortable, filled with unspoken understanding. Finally, Michael spoke again. "Lily asked me something interesting yesterday. She wanted to know if you were my girlfriend." Emma felt her heart skip. "And what did you tell her?" "I told her that you were something better, you were our family." "But..." He hesitated, then continued with the same quiet courage he'd shown that night in the park. "But I also told her that sometimes family can become something more, if both people want it." Emma took his hand, her CEO confidence momentarily replaced by vulnerability. "And do you want that, Michael?" His answer was to gently pull her closer, his lips finding hers in a kiss that felt like coming home after a very long journey. 1 year later, Emma Chen stood at a podium, accepting a humanitarian award for Horizon's new foundation dedicated to funding experimental cancer treatments for children. Michael and Lily sat in the front row, both beaming with pride. Lily's hair had grown back, thick and healthy, and she wore it in a stylish bob that matched Emma's new shorter cut. "People often ask me what inspired the foundation," Emma said into the microphone. "The answer is simple: courage. The courage of children fighting impossible odds. The courage of parents who never give up. And the courage of one man who stepped out of the shadows when it would have been easier to walk away." She looked directly at Michael, the quiet hero who had changed her life. Sometimes the most extraordinary people are hiding in plain sight, doing their jobs, loving their families, and waiting for the moment when they're needed most. My husband taught me that true strength isn't about power or position, it's about showing up when it matters. As applause filled the auditorium, Emma knew that the greatest achievement of her life wasn't Horizon Technologies or her impressive net worth. It was the family she'd found when she least expected it, a quiet single dad and his remarkable daughter who had shown her what really mattered. That night in the park, surrounded by danger, had been the beginning of her real life. Sometimes, she reflected, we find our greatest blessings in our darkest moments, if we're brave enough to recognize them when they appear. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring true stories about everyday heroes who change lives in extraordinary ways. Remember that sometimes the most meaningful connections begin in the most unexpected circumstances, and the quiet person you barely notice might just be the hero you never knew you needed.